Guys, I think a very valuable lesson as I've done more shoots and become more ambitious overall as a creator in the amount of projects that I want to take on and the amount of things I want to accomplish, such as short films, documentaries, and the time frame, especially that I give myself to accomplish these things. The more and more I realize that, well, ambition doesn't always necessarily mean growth. And our actions are what dictate growth. You could be ambitious, but you're going about accomplishing your goals and in the wrong way, well, you're not going to get anything done. So we have a quote: "You can do anything, but not everything." This is a quote by David Allen. So essentially, how do we apply this to the world of creativity, videography, photography, content creation? Well, if you're trying to grow your personal brand, you are a one-man show when you're starting out. And to be able to take on all of these different projects, all of these different goals that you may set for yourself, well, it's almost like setting yourself up for failure, because as much as you want to grow and as much as that's great, and you have these great goals and ambitions, you can only be in one place at a time, right? You can't be doing everything at once. So oftentimes this leads to burnout and really poor things that actually stunt our growth to begin with. But I wanna really hone in on this idea of opportunity cost. I'm sure you guys have heard that term before, but opportunity cost essentially means, what am I giving up by taking this opportunity, by taking this shoot, by taking this bigger project, by doing this short film shoot? What am I missing out on? Like, it's almost like FOMO. What is the cost of me doing this? What is the cost of me taking on this shoot? What other opportunities am I missing out on? Those types of things are very important as a freelancer, because you kind of just have control over what jobs you want to take, over what route you want to go down. And there's so many routes to go down. Let's say you say yes to too many sort of industry client gigs that you don't really enjoy too much. Well, that's going to lead to less time you developing your personal brand, less time sculpting the creator that you want to be, less time posting on social media, growing your personal brand, less time doing the things maybe you'd rather be doing in this space, whether it's shooting music, whether it's shooting cars, whether it's shooting short films. And if you say yes to too many creative projects, on the other hand, well then, let's say those creative projects aren't paying as much as those bigger ticket client projects that you don't enjoy. Well, that's obviously a cost, a literal financial cost. But there's also the fact of taking too many creative projects. Each project is going to start moving slower and slower in the actual completion. You're not going to be getting them done because you're just taking on too many different obstacles, and you're like, well, I can't dedicate all my time to this. Saying yes to a lot of editing heavy jobs means, well, this might seem silly, but you're getting less time outside. That's actually a health risk. It's also you're moving less. You're not stepping as much. You're not getting your blood flowing as much. You're sitting in that chair. There's less actual shooting you're doing less of. So those are definitely things you need to be considering. There's always a trade-off, guys. Always a trade-off, and it's up to you as the creator to navigate these hills and valleys to set yourself up for success. So what is my current scenario, and how is this sort of a concept of opportunity cost apply in my life as a creator? Well, my current scenario, I do have too much on my plate. I'm working on multiple short films, doing this podcasting, documentary shooting and editing, client work on a weekly basis. At the production company, some weeks are pretty slow, and then the other weeks you're shooting every single day, traveling, and it's crazy. Those weeks I can not dedicate any time to my own freelance stuff. I'm also doing active portfolio building, meaning just getting more work under my belt, crafting my future goals and the palette, sort of the cinematography palette that I want to have, moving forward, that's going to parlay me into the jobs that I want to take. I'm also doing social media outreach. So these are all things that are taking up time, right? This leads to friction. One moment I'll be editing a doc. The next moment I'll jump to making a reel. Then I'll be going back to the documentary editing. Then I go on and be like, oh, let me make some stickers. I need to, put branding on my gear or whatever. And it's like, maybe that isn't a thing I should be doing right now. But I get caught into different responsibilities that I, A, either have or B, just make up on the spot. And then I'm just not working on things I need to be working on. but there's just too much moving around between projects now. If you take on too much, you're moving around, and especially if you're doing it the wrong way, you're not budgeting your time the right way. Well, you're just aimlessly going around and trying to complete all these things and moving the needle of each, and they're all just kind of like in this like snail race, and no projects get done. And even now, I still feel like some stuff moves in slow motion. Some projects move in slow motion. I'm like, well, I worked so much on this. I worked so much on this other project, and I feel like none of them are actually that close to being completed. It's because I'm working on too many things at once. This is the opportunity cost, literally weighing heavier than it needs to be. If you have a lot of projects, right, and you're moving them all at a very slow pace, the opportunity cost is increased because you're not even weighing into one project at once, if that makes sense. So let's say you have like an allocated effort that you can have in a day that you can put into things. If you're allocating that effort and into so many different projects, well, then none of them are getting done. Let's say the opportunity cost is working on a single project at once instead of working at 10 at once. The opportunity cost is very, very high. Another option could be you just putting all of that 110% effort into one single project and actually making progress on it instead of trying to move all of these mountains at once. If you focus on one project, the cost would be less because you're actually moving the needle on it. And the opportunity cost of other projects seems less poignant. It's less there. You're not picking an option where you're putting all of your attention into too many things and nothing's getting done. If you do work on a lot of projects, you have no option. Let's be real, like we do get busy as freelancers. You have a lot of projects you're working on. Almost allocate time frames to projects and try to lock yourself into that time frame. Let's say, okay, I'm going to be in documentary editing mode just right now for the next hour. And then the next hour, okay, I'm going to be in short film editing mode. And then the next hour, okay, I'm going to be doing podcasting. It's almost like compartmentalizing your day and blocking things off. Though it does become mentally exhausting because you're just moving from project to project, and each project oftentimes takes a different mindset, a different scope of what you're doing. So you have to put on like different thinking caps in each scenarios. But this is just the life. This is the life of a freelancer who's in sort of like the middle ground of personal branding. You're kind of doing podcasting, you're doing social media outreach, you're doing client projects to pay the bills, and you're sort of just seeing which one gives first, which one's going to blow up first. So that middle stage of being a freelancer is very hard, especially if you're trying to establish your personal brand. This is going to be creatively exhausting, but I would say just make a list and allocate time frames. So important. Also, your iPhone. There's been so many times where I've been editing and then I get a notification because I leave my iPhone right on my desk when I'm editing. I get a notification, then it leads me to open Instagram, then it leads me to watch Reels, and then like 10 minutes go by, I'm like, I could have edited a whole scene on this documentary. The phone needs to go. It needs to go in like a literally another room because just having it right on your table is just going to be distracting. It's going to distract you from editing. I'm telling you, especially when you have a lot of stuff, a lot of projects you have to get going with. The phone is just such a disastrous device because you think about it. Okay, yeah, 5 minutes scrolling, here and there is fine. But let's say you're doing that for, 5 times a day. That's 25 minutes. Let's say you're doing it for 10 times a day. That's almost an hour wasted. So very important to not suck into the phone when you're editing and you're doing so many projects. Alex Hormozy said, it's better to work towards one thing entirely, 110%, than try to move 10 goals simultaneously and sort of like half-ass each goal. It's kind of what I was saying earlier. I found more progress and better results from projects that I dedicate my attention to entirely. I'm telling like every single night for 1 week, I'm dedicating to storyboarding my next short film. Nothing else. And it's hard because ambition is almost like a curse because you don't have all the time in the world to do all these projects. How are you going to get things done? And it's like, no, I actually do get things done, I guess, because I'm working on so many things. But then you come back at the end of the day and you're like, I didn't move the needle on any of these things, on any of these projects. And even when you try to block yourself into only focusing on one project like per week, you still will have, throughout the week moments where you come up with a new idea and you want to act on it. So it's very hard. It's almost like having self-control over your ambition. And it's a weird thing because we want to be high achievers. We want to accomplish a lot of things. We want to shoot a lot of projects. But those projects are going to get exponentially worse. Like the final result of these projects is going to get exponentially worse because you're not dedicating enough time to each. So yeah, you could go home and say you shot 10 different short films this week, but are any of these short films going to be that good as opposed to shooting one short film the entire week and putting all of your attention into it? So, that is so important to be able to almost control yourself. Be like, hey, I know you want to do that short film idea. I know you want to act on this content idea, but let's get this done first because we're going to put all of our efforts into this one thing, complete it in its entirety, 110%, then we move on. So obviously keep in back of the head if you have a new goal in mind, but always make sure to complete what you're currently doing. And that's something I've struggled with. And then you start negatively, talking yourself, internal dialogue. You're like, you think you're lazy, you're not working hard enough. But no, it's just because like some people who are successful, they didn't work hard, they just worked smart. And I think that's very important. If you want to get projects under your belt, if you want to establish a personal brand, you need to work smarter. You need to allocate your resources effectively. You need to be able to say, hey, I know I want to act on this next project, but let's just do this one first and see how that performs. Or else then you're just running around like a chicken with its head cut off. Your energy is finite. So burnout when you're juggling too many projects, it's normal. It's okay to do that, but just understand like, hey, let's manage this better. Let's look at an angle of let's try to manage this better instead of I need to be working hard. So, creative focus, it's not about doing more. It's just about choosing better. So the next project you may have, or the next week, the next time you sit down and you have a list of tasks to do for your freelance business, for your creative projects, for your social media branding, just understand, focus is key. So itemize how you're going to go about your day. Obviously, you don't have to stick to it, but just understand once you start allocating your time more effectively, you'll start to see those needles move. And they'll move in bigger steps than when you were trying to accomplish 10 things at once.